Do you and your husband have the same arguments on repeat? You know, you get that pit in your stomach as soon as a certain topic comes up, or when you hear the tone of his voice change, you just know it's going to be another argument. And it probably feels like there's no way that you can break this pattern. The good news is your marriage isn't broken. There are actually 5 hidden reasons that keep dragging you into the same argument again and again. I actually experienced all of these in my relationship, and now, because I know them and I've worked on them, things are so much better. The 5th one is underlying pretty much every argument, so definitely note that one. I am Lindsay. This is Living with Intention. Let's dive in, because you can't change these patterns if you don't even know why they're happening, but I got you. So the first thing that I want to talk about, we're diving right in, is unhealed wounds. So once upon a time, you had your first fight about this topic. Let's say it was about money. You spent a bunch of money around Christmas. You didn't talk to your husband about it ahead of time. He saw the credit card bill, and then you two had a big argument about it. Hurtful things were said, and then you just sort of moved on. There was little to no repair around the hurtful things that came out in the argument. That stuff just got swept under the rug. And now every time money comes up, both of your nervous systems get triggered from that first argument. Your nervous system remembers this topic isn't safe. So now it's not just about the issue at hand. You're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode on top of everything else. So your ability to stay calm, it has gone out the window, which means another argument. And what that often means is more hurtful things being said that also get swept under the rug. For years in my relationship, I would avoid certain topics for this very reason. I had plenty of evidence that it would end up in an argument. So why would I bring it up? It makes sense that we do this, that we avoid certain topics because it's painful and it's hard to have these conversations. We don't want to hear more hurtful things. We don't want to say more hurtful things. And in my relationship, we weren't repairing or apologizing. So it was extra crappy. And what I eventually learned is that unhealed wounds don't just go away on their own. When we sweep things under the rug, we feel like we're tidying things up and things are looking better from the outside. But over time, the pile under the rug just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It becomes impossible to ignore. You're tripping over it often. I think subconsciously I knew this. I knew that the fights about these topics weren't just going to magically stop. But we tell ourselves all sorts of stories in order to try to stay connected in our relationships, or at least to try to stay out of conflict. Finally bringing up the hurt is like lifting under the rug, and there's a huge mess under there, but once you clean up the mess, you can finally talk about those conversations without tripping over the unresolved hurts. And, of course, I know from experience that this is easier said than done. With some of our repetitive fight topics in our relationship, it took us years to finally have safe conversations around those wounds. One of the keys is not bringing up the hurt when you're already arguing about it. That is not the space to heal these wounds or to talk about things. We need a safe space in our relationship to bring up these hurts and actually repair. We need tools to be able to talk through the hurts. A full love account is really helpful too. And if you pop the word roadmap in the comments, I will share my free love journey roadmap with you. It is such a great place to start when it comes to creating a safe space in your relationship so that you can talk about these things. So just pop the word roadmap below. And when it comes to getting triggered, there's more to this story, which is the second reason that repetitive arguments keep happening. Triggers from the past beyond your relationship. This is what we're talking about. So has your husband ever reacted to something seemingly small and you were like, whoa, where did that come from? And maybe you've done this too. Maybe you say to your husband, oh, I forgot to grab milk on the way home. Could you grab some in the morning, please? And he snaps at you, oh, because I have all the time in the world. You don't appreciate anything I do. And you are like, what? I never said any of that. And suddenly you're in a full-blown argument. When a reaction seems disproportionate to the event that just happened, it's usually not about the present moment at all. It's about old triggers. Maybe your husband grew up with a whole lot of responsibility, taking care of siblings, doing chores, getting good grades, but he didn't get much recognition for it. Instead, his mom actually just kept putting more and more stuff on his plate while saying things like, why didn't you get everything done? Or you're so lazy, I have to do everything around here. He might have internalized the beliefs that he's responsible for everything, but no matter what he does, he's never enough. So now, when you ask him to pick up the milk in the morning, he doesn't hear your casual question. His nervous system registers this as an attack, like another thing I have to do without recognition for anything that I do. It is like a time warp. His nervous system goes back to that old wound. Does your husband know in the moment that this big reaction is tied to something else and not tied to the fact that you'd like him to grab the milk? Maybe, but most often, honestly, no. When I am working With clients through upsetting situations, we always find that there's so much more at the root, and that is not to dismiss any present day feelings. It's just to zoom out and look at the disproportionate reaction. And this shows up as repetitive arguments because we tend to stay in the surface stuff. You walk away thinking, he's such a jerk, all I did was ask. And he walks away thinking, she doesn't appreciate me at all, she doesn't see how much I do. Until you look under the surface, the same arguments just keep happening. Seeing the why under the reaction, it means that you can bring in compassion, bring in connection. It doesn't mean you're okay with the reaction. It means you can empathize with their past experience and see the link there. We get to stay curious and heal ourselves and each other. And you can definitely talk about the reaction at a later point, not when you're in the middle of it. That doesn't tend to go well. But this is about getting curious and holding space for all of the things. So the third reason I am sharing is something that I talk about often here at Love It With Intention. Ding, ding, ding. It is unmet needs. Us humans, bless us truly, we use unhealthy strategies like criticism, defensiveness, shutting down to get our beautiful, valid needs met because we've learned these patterns over time and it's super vulnerable to express our needs. So for example, I've shared this example before. I used to get frustrated before camping trips. I would do all the organizing, I would do all the packing, and my partner would just sit on the couch in the morning. I would be huffing around, making comments like, must be nice to sit there while I do everything. I would slam cupboards. I would shut the door really loud. What I really needed, the unmet need, was appreciation and also to feel like a team. The unfortunate thing is, obviously, when we use these unhealthy strategies, it actually pushes us further away from those needs. As I'm basically scolding him, he's not likely to look up and shower me with appreciation or jump in and start packing with me. It took me time to realize this. It might sound really obvious when I'm saying it, but we all do things like this. We have had so many talks in our relationship about this kind of situation, and I just ask for appreciation now when I want it. Realizing this also led me to zooming out and seeing how much he does for those trips. He loads the heavy stuff. He drives the hours to the campsite. He does all, and I mean all, of the cooking when we are there. We were actually rolling in our strengths, but I wasn't seeing it. So this is again where we get to bring in curiosity around repetitive arguments. What are the unmet needs underneath the surface reactions, the unhealthy strategies that we're using to try to get those needs met? This is how we can start shifting things. And again, you can pop the word roadmap below and I will share that free roadmap and I will guide you to actually wonder and look under that surface stuff. So the fourth reason repetitive arguments happen is that you have totally different opinions on a topic, or maybe you just really want different things. Maybe it's something big, like one of you wants kids and the other person doesn't. Maybe you disagree on how you parent your kids. Maybe you want to go on a vacation, but one of you wants to go on a relaxing vacation. The other one wants to go on like a go, go, go vacation. These things can feel like dead ends, like we're certain what we want and they don't align. And this can feel really scary when it's something like kids, getting married or not, moving to a certain place. Of course, these topics would be heavy and you could end up just arguing for your side. Instead of approaching these things with fear and trying to convince each other to see our point, the shift actually comes from curiosity. So there's definitely a theme here with curiosity throughout. When you can put your perspective on the shelf for a moment and deeply hear your husband, validate him, appreciate his point of view, it opens up new possibilities. Something that seemed like there were only two options, your way or his way, it can unfold into options you had never imagined. And I see this happen all the time with my clients, and it happens in my relationship. Which leads me into the fifth reason. It's because you don't feel heard. You keep arguing because you just want to feel heard. Whatever the context, arguments are a battle of hear me, no, you hear me. You say the kids need to do their homework right when they get home because they're too busy with their friends after dinner. Your husband says, I get you want that, but they need to be able to relax when they've just been at school all day. They're way too wired when they get home. Just let them do it after dinner. The but he used, it canceled out that acknowledgement when he said to you, I get that, and then you don't feel heard. So you say, I get they need to relax, but they can do that later after everything is done. And then it just becomes a back and forth, both of you just fighting for your points and not feeling heard. Instead, if your husband stopped the cycle and said to you, it makes sense you want them to get it done before dinner. They are always really busy after dinner, and he just stops there. No but, not sharing his side, you can finally breathe. You feel heard. You don't need to argue your point because he clearly gets it, which could then open the door for you to say, I get what you mean, though. They really are wired after school and they've just been sitting at their desks all day. Drop it, leave it. Now he feels heard and either one of you can go first. He doesn't have to prove his point anymore when he feels heard. and neither of you agreed to anything. You did not make a plan. You are just validating each other's perspectives. This is where possibilities open up because you're not arguing anymore. We've now brought safety into this conversation. When we truly listen and validate each other, we stop that cycle and then we can start co-creating solutions. But if you're too busy just trying to be heard, you can't get to solutions. And if you hear any of these reasons and think about shifting these or starting to change things and you're like, that is too hard. There is no hope. It is way too hard to bring up conversations outside of an argument, or my husband won't even talk about his childhood. I have no idea what those wounds are. Or sure, I can try these things, but if my husband isn't doing them, nothing's going to change. I hear you. It takes time to change these patterns for sure. It took me time. And when I started, my partner wasn't on board with the whole relationship growth thing. But through me changing my patterns and getting super intentional, it created a safer space in our relationship. And he opened up to the idea, and now we're all in together. So whether it's triggers within your relationship, triggers from the past, unmet needs, fundamentally disagreeing or not feeling heard, there is hope to start to heal these areas. So your intentional action for the week is to pop the word roadmap in the comments to take that first step today. I have so got you. And if you've already gotten the roadmap, it is the perfect time to crack it open and jump back in. The video on the screen is where I break down the 4 areas that I dove deep into when I got serious about relationship growth. And I am so sure that it will be helpful on your journey. I'm sending so much love into your day. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. So let's have a super intentional week. Bye.